Welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique, the podcast series where we chat about shit with inspirational people from all walks of life. Today we are joined by the wonderful and inspiring Nat Woodward. We hope you enjoy this conversation. So Nat, welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Before we start, I wanted to mention that we have had the pleasure of speaking before on an Instagram live on Ostique's account. And I just wanted to point out that I think the most amazing thing about you is your honesty about all sides of your experience. And we had countless messages after that live saying how valuable that was to people.
Oh,
so thank you.
That was so good. And also my read as well. Like I felt so inspired by him, but also so seen, because I feel like we were on the same vibe in terms of our stomas. So yeah, it was a really good experience.
I'm so pleased. So I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast now to follow that up and get into some more depth on everything.
Perfect.
So thank you. For anybody who doesn't know you, who's listening, would you mind just introducing yourself and just giving us a bit of insight as to your journey?
Yeah, so I'm Natalie. I was diagnosed with advanced cancer at 36. I was 36, yeah. And so the cancer was in my bowel, so it was really low down in my rectum, anus, but it was kind of filling my whole pelvis. It was caught really late. So initially, it didn't look very good initially in terms of prognosis, but my bowel had completely stopped working. So I had symptoms maybe for about a year, but just right towards the end, the symptoms got quite severe. My bowel wasn't really working at all. So I would be in the bathroom for like 4 hours, passing out of the toilet, trying to go to the toilet, and I couldn't. So that's when they finally took me seriously. I was diagnosed with cancer, but also because my bowel was not working, I was given a colostomy. So it wasn't emergency surgery as in I was rushed in as an emergency, but I was getting very unwell, and they just wanted to get me on some treatment for my cancer. So they gave me this colostomy very, very quickly. It all happened very quickly. So yeah, that was my first operation for my cancer. So I had it was a loop colostomy with, in my mind, I was going to get through treatment and get it reversed. So for the first year of having a stoma, in my mind, I was looking towards that reversal. Yeah. In between, I had really intensive chemo and radiation at the same time. So I had 29 days of radiation with a chemo pump attached, which was really hard. The cancer responded really well, but unfortunately, as soon as I was off treatment, it just started growing back really quickly. In the original place, but also kind of a bit higher up as well. So it was just really a blow after going through a year of such hard treatment. By that point, it was advanced and recurrent cancer, so I had to be referred to a specialist hospital, to a complex cancer clinic, and I had to have really quite an extreme surgery, which removed most of the organs in my pelvis, apart from my bladder, part of my spine. There was muscle, pelvic bone, like so much involved. It was a 12-hour surgery, part of which was a removal of my anus and rectum, which obviously means that my then temporary stoma was now going to be a permanent one. So yeah, that's kind of a really quick nutshell of my journey.
Thank you for sharing. That operation must have been really intense to recover from. What was that recovery like for you?
It was horrendous, but made harder because it was in the pandemic. So I headed into hospital on my own. I didn't have any visitors, not one. So I woke up in intensive care on my own.
Oh, no.
So didn't see anyone, nobody. Chris, when I was well enough I had to kind of gain strength, and because of the spine and muscle that they took, I had to kind of relearn to walk again. So that took a while, and I was on like a walking frame. So at one point I was waving to my friends out the window who came to visit. I know.
Oh
It
God.
was really hard. I won't lie. Physically and mentally, it was really hard because I was cut open down the front, but also at the back as well. So one thing I've learned is when some people who have a Barbie butt, so maybe people from the IBD community, is very different from the Barbie butt that I had for my pelvic exenteration, in the sense that you're also placed front down during the operation, and they cut you from basically the top of your bottom crack all the way underneath through your perineum right forward to my vagina. So I was opened up at the front and at the back. Then they took part of my right bottom cheek away, quite a lot of that glute muscle, to rebuild the underneath of you. So you have obviously the big wound from the back to the front, but I've also lost most of my right cheek. So it's very different in terms of some surgeries, which was something I discovered last week actually from a really lovely girl Amy, who you know, who's got IBD.
Yes.
So she put a picture of her Barbie butt, and I didn't realise it was a completely different thing. So it's really good about, you know, you learn so much from everyone's experience is so different, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah, so I wasn't allowed to lay on my back, obviously couldn't lay on my front. So had to be rolled from side to side for the first few days by the nurses. I had a catheter in my bladder. I kept it, but it was operated on. The cancer had spread to my left ureter, which is the tube that goes from your kidney to your bladder. So there was cancer there that they had to remove, then re-implant the rest of the ureter into my bladder. So it caused damage to my bladder. So I now have to self-catheterize, which I'm happy to do because I kept my bladder. Otherwise, I would have had 2 bags, which is also fine, but I just really wanted to try to keep my bladder. So yeah, it was a really brutal recovery. It's actually hard to express. I think I tried to prepare myself for it, but nothing can really prepare for that. Also psychologically, you know, as a younger woman, you know, losing the chance to be a mother, obviously having most of my vagina cut out. You know, the implications of the surgery are so far reaching. I obviously was really glad to have the surgery. My surgery was delayed quite a few months because of the pandemic. There were no intensive care beds for me. So there was about a 6-month wait between when I got told I needed the surgery and when I had it. So I had to go back on chemo in the meantime, kind of to hold my cancer steady. Otherwise, if it grew too much, I wouldn't have been eligible to have it. So there was part of me that was just super glad that I was still able to have it. But another part that was just grieving, I guess, devastated. It was so many emotions all at once, to be honest.
Can't even imagine. And you were by yourself in the hospital for
So it was
months?
a month initially, but I actually got discharged from hospital, got taken home by ambulance, and then Chris ended up calling an ambulance a few hours later. I had quite severe sepsis. I don't know how that got missed. I guess just through all the discharge stuff. I don't know, but yeah, I was really ill. I actually thought I was going to die. So I was home for a couple of hours. He called the ambulance. I wasn't really responsive, and they whisked me away, but he couldn't come with me. So he literally thought that was the last time he was going to see me, and I thought this is it. I genuinely felt so poorly. I just thought I'd never see him again. So yeah, then I was back in for another few weeks, came home for a couple of days, went back in. So for 6 months, I was constantly being readmitted, which is just really normal. Nothing bad. Like it wasn't anything that I did wrong or my doctors
No.
did wrong. It's the nature of having such a massive surgery. Some people don't have readmissions, and I just had a really unfortunate time of 6 months mainly in hospital, mainly on my own. So Chris, right near the end of the year, could come in for an hour. That was like in the December, and I had my surgery in the August. So most of that year, I did the hospital part alone. Like many other patients, I'm not special. I know that so many people went through that as well. But it was really hard. I actually can't believe that happened when I look back at it now.
I can't believe you went through that. It's, from a mental health perspective, obviously I can't even imagine how traumatic and challenging that was. Were you given any counselling or help through that time?
So I'm really lucky. My actual team was just so incredible. So my team at St Mark's Hospital, my surgeon was amazing. He popped in quite a lot. I had a really lovely stoma nurse that came in. The team at the hospital, I had it actually at the London clinic. As an NHS patient, they had to basically try and fit us in other hospitals. It was a beautiful hospital, and the team there were incredible. I had the funniest healthcare assistant. He literally brightened my day. I had an amazing Macmillan nurse who was there for me if I needed someone to advocate for me, because obviously when you're in hospital extremely unwell, usually it's your loved ones that advocate for you or ask questions. So she was amazing at that. So yeah, I have to say I was really lucky. They kind of became my family. It isn't a substitute for some, having your loved ones there, holding your hand, just seeing them when, especially, I just remember waking up in intensive care and thinking, first of all, thank God I'm alive, I made it through. And then I thought, I'm not going to see anyone, and I don't know how long for. And I hate that so many people had to experience that. It is really, it's still, I'm not going to cry, but it still makes me emotional thinking about it, because it was the hardest time in my life, and nobody saw it. Nobody really was there with me, not through any fault of their own, but I kind of emerged 6 months later, and I don't think people really understood the gravity of what had just happened, because they saw me at a more healed point. They hadn't kind of seen the depth of what I really had to go through during those months. So, which is good in a way, but also quite hard, because it felt quite lonely, actually. Even Chris, my partner, he didn't see the worst of it. He's seen other bad things, but he didn't see the worst of that. So yeah, it did feel quite isolating and lonely, actually. But yeah, it's just a distant memory now, which is quite good. It's fine. It's fine, and it's important. I think that the pandemic affected, and the decisions that were made during the pandemic affected everyone, but there was a group of us who not only had to go through the pandemic, but were fighting for our lives at the same time. So yeah, I think it's important to tell the stories of that,
On the topic of kind of feeling lonely and the impact it might have had on relationships, I saw a post of yours recently about the depth of friendship you made kind of with other people who were going through a similar experience to you while you were recovering, and how sometimes you can be plunged into kind of such depths of trauma that actually you emerge with these really intense bonds with other people.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you, and how did it impact your other relationships?
So I think for me, I'm really lucky. I have an amazing group of friends, or many groups of friends in my life, like non-cancer friends. For me, the cancer relationships were so important, because I'm glad they don't understand, but my normal life friends truly don't understand what this feels like. And I'm glad, I hope they never have to. But yeah, you kind of feel really separate from their lives, are kind of continuing, they're starting families, they're going on holidays, worrying about the normal things that normal people my age worry about. Oh, we're going on holiday, want to look bikini ready and stuff like that. And obviously then I'm contemplating getting half my body cut out, and all my priorities changed completely. The things that mattered changed completely. And I did feel really alone. They were amazing. This isn't anything against my normal life friends. They were absolutely amazing and supported me. But of course, they didn't truly understand what I was going through, and what it's like to be told, not only you have cancer, but you have an advanced cancer that is inoperable, that you might not get better from, and all cancer journeys are different. And I think you find the people who are your family. So I made friends with a lot of people who also had advanced cancer, who had similar surgeries to what I had, kind of similar journeys, and that friendship's been invaluable. What the one friendship, she's unfortunately passed away now, but one of the friendships, she'd gone through my surgery a year before me. She's the reason I went through with it, because when they told me what they needed to take out, I was like, what quality of life am I going to have? I don't just want to survive, I want and exist, I want to live. So part of the discussion was I might not be able to use my left foot because of the part of the spine they took out. There was so much to think about. I thought, I'm not even sure I want to live like that. Luckily, that was short-lived, and I met Alex, and she'd had pelvic exenteration with the same surgeon as me. And she was just the most amazing girl. Her exenteration was slightly different to me, but, you know, there was so much common ground, and she was back at work. She was a detective in the police. Like, to see her living her life after such a catastrophic operation, that really gave me the motivation to do it myself and to be brave and to know that their life would be different, but it would still be amazing. So yeah, like that friendship, without that particular friendship, I don't know where I'd be. And it was unbelievable connection. And you do get that, you find the people who you just connect so deeply with. Some of them you won't have even met in real life, but you talk every day, send voice notes about your bowel movements and your stomas, you know, like we always laugh, me and my cancer friends always laugh, thinking, God, I hope no one finds these chats when I die, like some of the pictures. But it's a really beautiful, it's like an unfortunate way to make the most beautiful friendships. I honestly feel so lucky for the people I've met through having cancer, and I have lost a lot of them, and that's really hard. But I would rather have met them just for a brief while and had them in my life than not make cancer friends, you know. But yeah, the friendships are amazing, and I'm sure anyone who's listening to this will agree. It doesn't matter whether you've got cancer or not, whatever you're going through, whatever reason you've had to get your stoma, like you will find the people who have had a similar experience and who make you feel so much less lonely in this experience.
That's so special. I did a podcast with a lady called Bethany Russell recently, and she had bowel cancer, and she felt really strongly about giving some advice to people who were friends or family members of someone going through cancer, of things she either wishes people hadn't have said or things that might be good to say in that situation. Her perspective was, please don't ask someone what stage they're at, because actually that's not what they need to hear at that time, and most surgeons haven't told them anyway. Is there anything that you might share from an advice perspective for someone that wants to support someone through cancer in the best way they possibly can?
So the first thing that sticks out to me would be, when we're telling you something, we don't want you to fix it. We just want to be heard. So I think the best thing that I've learned to do this as well, because I would probably try and offer solutions if someone came to me with a problem. When someone is talking to you about what they're going through, that I think our gut instinct as humans is to make them feel better about it by saying, oh, well, I know someone who's had this and they're but fine now, and I haven't. It's like, we actually don't need that. We don't need you to offer us solutions. We just need to talk to someone. And recently, I was in a really bad place, and my friend just said, yeah, that's really rubbish. And that was so powerful, because I just felt seen. You know, I felt like my feelings were valid, and I just felt seen. I think by offering solutions or saying, oh, it could be worse, or so-and-so had that, or I know how you feel, anything like that, it kind of doesn't mean anything. It almost undermines what that person's feeling. So I think just hold space for them to talk to you and just listen to them is really powerful. I think as well, offer practical things if you want to help, like, you know, do you need me to bring you around some dinner, or, you know, if you're on treatment. Those were the really useful things. People who sent me, like, I guess food parcels or things like that. Really practical help. That was really amazing. And I think as well, don't be afraid to talk about it. And I think there is it's quite nerve-wracking talking to someone who's got cancer because you don't want to say anything wrong. But I think as long as you're just listening to them and really hearing what they've got to say and just let them know that you're there for them. For me, that was the best thing anyone could do for me. It's people offer to do fundraising, which is great. But for me, as the cancer patient, anything that made me feel like less alone was really invaluable.
I hope you're okay delving into this, and tell me if you don't want to talk about it, please. But I saw a post where you talked about being really hard on your body in the past, and perhaps that was linked to being a dancer and putting yourself under certain pressures. And it really resonated with me because I have done something similar in the past, and I really regret how I treated my body now. And I wondered what the journey has been on that you've been on with the kind of relationship with your body, how that's evolved through everything you've been through and how you feel about it now.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because I think a lot of us, male and female, all of us, but particularly I feel like as young women, there was a lot of pressure on what we look like, and we put that pressure on ourselves as well. And I was super hard. I did have disordered eating. I was a dancer, so I went to dance school, and I just stopped eating really. I became quite unwell with like the eating disorder, and that was really hard because I completely lost myself in that. My life became about my restrictive eating. I actually, in the end, my dance, like the head of, I don't know what you call it, head of department, suggested I go home and get better. And I didn't really see how bad the problem had got, but I was very, very thin, like terribly so. So yeah, I had a little journey to bounce back from that. But if I'm honest with you, since then, so I was like 17, 18 at that time, but since all through my 20s, I did have disordered eating, not to that level, but I did have disordered eating, and my weight would affect my mood. Like if I was feeling fat, I wouldn't want to go out. I wouldn't want to see people. I feel so repelled and disgusted by myself. So yeah, it was a really big issue for most of my adult life. And as a dancer, your body is your tool. It's your job. It's your job for it to look nice, but also to be fit and active and supple. And all of a sudden, I'm having like my intestine pulled out of my tummy, my abdomen, and I'm like, it couldn't have been further from my life before. And I somehow had to adjust my expectations of my body from all of those years of wanting it to look a certain way and to, basically look a certain way. And all of a sudden, all I want to do is live. And I want my body to be well. That's all I want. After years of being horrible to it and punishing it and restrictive eating, all I wanted was my body to be well. I didn't care what it looked like. I just wanted to survive. So that was like a really big shift. But obviously, when you are getting to the point where you are looking like you're going to live, those old thoughts come back in, and you start to go, oh my God, look at the state of my body. I've got a stoma. I've had my bum cut out. I've got a scar from front to back. It's so weird how many shifts you go along, because all of a sudden I went from just wanting my body to be well to going back to criticizing it. And I have to say that's a lot less now, because mainly I'm just happy to be here and happy that my body's done so well, and I'm so proud of it. But I have to say, you do fall back into those traps of going, oh, I feel disgusting, I feel ugly, and that voice is a lot quieter now, but I still really have to work on it some days. Not all days, but some days. And I think it's important to be honest about that there will be days, even when you've healed a lot of your issues and when you're so proud of what your body's overcome, there will still be those days where you feel disgusting or think you look ugly, which is ridiculous. Like, we're not ugly. Our bodies are amazing, whatever they look like. But it's like old habits, isn't it? It's like reprogramming your brain. Exactly. They're so ingrained in us, that I really have to watch out for those. But the good thing now is I recognize those thoughts coming in. So I shift my perspective, try and shift my thinking to be like, think about what your body is doing for you. And really, who cares what it looks like? Like, oh my God, I'm not friends with people because of what they look like. My friends and my loved ones love me because of who I am. So yeah, been a massive journey, to be honest with you. And I know a lot of people will relate to that, because I'm pretty sure most, especially young women growing up, we have had disordered eating or just been so hard on our bodies.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that, and for your honesty in that it will creep back in. You can't control thoughts coming in, but you can control how you address them after that. So being able to speak to yourself kindly, I think, is so important.
Yeah, definitely.
And you mentioned during that about your kind of intestine coming out of your abdomen. So I wondered if we could touch upon your stoma. Obviously, you've mentioned that you were hoping for a reversal, and then unfortunately that wasn't the case. And when we had our Instagram live, you spoke about how actually it's been quite a battle for you to come to terms with the stoma in maybe a different way to the surgery. Would you mind going into that a bit more?
Yeah, so I think initially when I got the stoma, my loop colostomy, at the beginning of my cancer journey, I kind of took it on the chin. I was like, it's fine, it's going to get me through treatment. I obviously was a bit gutted at first when they told me what I was having, but I don't think that I really knew what it was. Nobody explained to me that I would literally see part of my bowel outside of my body. I know, like, I think, or maybe they did and I was just really unwell and it was all happening too quick, but I don't ever remember a conversation about that. So I think I woke up and I was like, what is that? And they're really swollen at the time as well. So I was like, oh my gosh, it was like it looked like a little alien on my tummy. Yeah.
Everyone describes it.
So weird. And it's also clever, but like just mainly I was like, what? But I think because all I wanted at that point was to get on some treatment, I was so unwell. Where my tumours were growing into my spine, like the pain was just horrific and constant. And I was just like, oh, let's get on treatment, get the treatment done, get it reversed. And I think through the whole of my first year, my mental frame of mind was quite okay in terms of having my stoma. I never gave it a name or anything like that. That's not really me. And I get why people do that, but it just wasn't really for me. But I kind of made friends with it as such and thought, right, you're going to help me get through treatment. But all the time, I even had my hospital bag packed for my reversal, which is probably really naive looking back. My team must have been thinking, God, but it did help me through my first year to think that I would have the chance of a reversal. And then when I got told about my pelvic exenteration and I'm obviously removing my anus, there's no way I'm going to have a reversal ever again. I was devastated, I won't even lie to you. There are obviously so many more aspects to it than just the stoma, but I have to say that having a permanent stoma was probably what I was most gutted about, probably, and the being a parent thing. But yeah, I didn't even know if I wanted it. The surgery, I was like, I was so sad. I remember sitting there with my consultant and they confirmed that my cancer was recurring really quickly. And I just said, I wish you hadn't saved me in the first place. Like, I was so devastated. I know, I feel so bad for saying that now, but that was how I felt in that moment.
No, don't.
And it was brief. It was brief that I felt like that. I also was really, because I was in medical menopause. I think that didn't help my state of mind. But yeah, there was a moment of devastation where I said that, and I truly meant it. But I guess the will to live kicks in, and I kind of had to make peace with the fact, okay, I'm going to have this stoma, but without having the surgery, I would maybe be here 9 months and I'd die. So this is going to be a chance of more life. So I really thought, right, let's do this. And again, I was really like, once I processed that initial information about the surgery, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. I think I dealt with it all really well. I think I was very positive. I shared my journey of this my operation. I feel like I took it on the chin again. I think it was sort of a few months after the surgery, once the initial 6 months of constant readmissions was over. I think that's what hit me when it hit me what had just happened. It was a massive delayed reaction. And my surgeon did say that to me. So I was like cheerful in the hospital. And he did say, like, just, be prepared that what you've been through might hit you at some point. And he was absolutely right. I went through a really dark phase. Weirdly, when I was feeling a lot better physically, is when my mind caught up with it all and was like, this is forever. This isn't going to get better. I'm not going to get my stoma reversed. Those organs that they've removed are gone. This is my life now. And that was really hard. The stoma and all of it, And I still go through periods now. Like, I, on the whole, processed that at the time. But again, like we were saying earlier, healing is a constant thing. Healing isn't an endpoint. We're always going to be healing from our traumas. New traumas will come in that we'll have to heal. It's not an end game where you're like, right, I'm healed now, I feel amazing about everything. That it doesn't work like that. There will be days where you hate your stoma. You will be days where you don't think about it. It's just an ongoing thing. And I think what I've had to do is manage my triggers, because my triggers are my fault. It's not the fault of the person that's triggered me. It's my own. It's an indication of what I still need to heal within me. So, for example, seeing people get their stomas reversed, like I am so happy for them genuinely, but it's like a dagger to the heart, because you'll never get to that stage. You'll never get your stoma reversal. You'll never have that full cycle of healing that people do and have and then move forward. We're kind of stuck in this perpetual state of being constantly reminded of our cancer and of what we've been through. So yeah, that's a massive trigger, but I know how to move through it better. And as I say, I'm always so happy. That's how it should be. We should get to the point where our bodies are healed enough for us to have our reversals. Cancer should be caught early enough that we don't have to live with these horrendous surgery, like the implications of these horrendous surgeries for the rest of our lives. Like, that's the aim. Like, the more people that can have the reversal, that means something's going right within the system. Okay, so it's never from a place of being bitter, I'm so happy to them, but of course it's something that I wanted that I'll never have. And living with a stoma, especially, I think being young and having one, has its own really specific implications. And it's okay that I say that, I think, but it's not an easy thing to live with. Even if you've had a poor quality of life before you had your stoma, as I know so many people with Crohn's and colitis do, it's still hard. It's still a hard thing to come to terms with and to manage for the rest of your life. But it's also something you can get to a place where you don't feel sad about it. You just kind of feel neutral about it. That's the place that I like to be in. It's just a completely neutral place. I'm not thinking about it too much. It's not ruining my life. I'm not jumping for joy about it, but I'm just in this kind of really nice, quiet acceptance that I've got this, and I wouldn't be alive if I hadn't had that and the other parts of my surgery.
You described it last time and you just said it then as a place of quiet acceptance. And that, I thought that was a really beautiful way of putting it. And I know that a lot of people felt the same way. And before hearing you say that, they didn't feel that they could talk about it like that because it needed to be
And
overwhelmingly
I
positive.
appreciate the people who are online doing that, because, you know, we are all inspired by different things. That's why I loved meeting Moeed, because he's the same. Like, he doesn't think about it too much. He doesn't post about it all the time. If he does, like, he's open about talking about it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But on the whole, like, it's just something that I've got. It doesn't kind of rule my life. But then again, I know that people out there who post a lot of pictures of their bags and talk about it all the time, like, that's equally as valid. Like, that there are a group of people who are inspired by that, and that's okay. Like, we're all inspired differently. I always think that there is a big thing. This is probably a controversial thing to say, but I'm not always sure about stoma stigma. I'm not sure we'll ever get rid of it, if I'm really truthful. I don't think that there will be a time where nobody thinks of a stoma in a negative way or doesn't want to get one. Like, I think we're really fighting an uphill battle with that, proven by some of my stoma friends who have put stuff on their social medias, been trolled about it, had stuff taken down. Like, I hope that they keep doing it, but it just goes to show that, like, I do think we're fighting an uphill battle. I think we can improve how people see a stoma. I don't ever think we'll get rid of the stigma completely. And I think that sadly people actually rather not have a stoma, and a lot of them do pass away because they don't want the surgery. And that breaks my heart, because I know how bad you can feel about yourself when you have one. But life is still amazing with a stoma or without one. And so for the people who do post a lot about their stomas, I hope they continue to do it, even if they are getting backlash or horrible comments. I really hope they still do it, because it's nothing to be ashamed of. They're so amazing people, living their lives, living their best lives, and helping others through a really difficult situation. But yeah, it's something that's really personal to you. You don't have to feel amazing about your stoma. You can feel amazing about it. If you feel sad, you're not alone. Like, wherever you are on the spectrum is completely okay. And just because you're not jumping around or making reels or showing your bag every day, it doesn't mean you failed. Like, just own how you feel about it. And this really freeing when you own how you feel. When I stopped feeling the need to feel great about it and talk to everyone about it, it was like freedom. It's okay that I just feel like this about it, you know?
I absolutely understand where you're coming from, and from the kind of stigma perspective, that's exactly why Steph set up Ostique in the first place. Both her brothers have Crohn's, and she was heartbroken to see so many people with IBD putting off having the surgery because they were so concerned about what might be on the other side. So yeah,
and
I'm very aligned with you
I
on
truly
that.
hope that we can continue to kind of crush this stigma. But I do honestly think it will be an ongoing thing forevermore, as long as stomas are needed, because I once had one of my exes had a brother who had horrendous colitis and spent his whole life in the bathroom, but refused to get a stoma. He didn't get one. He still hasn't got one, and that's fine. That's his decision. But seeing the suffering he went through, and then seeing some people in the IBD community who have like got a new lease of life, it breaks your heart, because I know the idea of getting a stoma is hideous, but the reality of it, you do kind of just accept it and it's fine. But to see people going from a shell of their self to living their best lives, going out, like going on holidays, going swimming, living rather than being trapped in a bathroom, like, wow, surely that's surely that's a risk that you can take to try and have a, to see how it goes with the stoma. But yeah, I understand why people feel like that, but I wish you could give them the gift of knowing that it isn't bad. It's not a bad life afterwards. It's actually, for many, a new life.
I know I've taken a lot of your time and I'm so appreciative, but I wanted to speak about one more thing, which was I spoke with Richard Davies recently, who is an incredible human being, as I'm sure you'll agree. And I know you're an ambassador now for Tittle, and we've touched upon social media and trolling and the way that this can be for some people. And I wondered what it meant to you to be a part of that initiative.
It's been so lovely. So Rich is amazing, like so amazing. He's obviously got a stoma as well, and his attitude is quite different to mine, but really amazing. Like some days his attitude like gives me a kick up the butt because he's very gung-ho. I've got a stoma, so what, crack on. And obviously for his situation, he's a stage 4 patient as well, and he's having a hell of a time. So his attitude towards everything is brilliant. And he's become a really good friend of mine. And it really broke me to see the horrendous trolling that I didn't even know about this website. Someone had mentioned it to me before because of a different influencer, like a really big person in the cancer world had apparently been trolled on there, and I've never looked, I'd never thought about it. And then when I'm talking to Rich, I was so disgusted that people take time out of their day to log onto a forum to talk about other people and not in a nice way. Like, for me, the idea, it's so far away from who I am as a person. So then I had people who obviously had gone on there and were messaging me saying, "Oh my God, I've seen what's written about you." I just cut them off and said, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what's said about me. What other people think of me is none of my business. I don't want to give that forum any energy at all. If that's how some people want to choose to spend their time, that's completely up to them. But then Rich suggested this other thing, and I just thought, you know what? There's so much. I have had trolls on my Instagram. I've had people telling me that my stoma is disgusting. Why is your boyfriend still with you? Like, so many things. And I deal with them in my way, like either ignoring or just, I usually send something nice. Nothing like a bit of passive aggression. But I honestly said to him, like, the world needs more of these spaces where people can go and chat to each other, maybe feel less alone. So I think that's what Tattle is. I think it's a place where people can feel seen, obviously not in a great way, but all they want is company, I think, and for someone to see them. Why not be seen by talking about nice things and like just positive things? There's all sorts of threads on Tittle, like movies or like good box sets to watch or series to watch. There's such a varied range of topics, and I think it's just people chatting and feeling less alone. And I think essentially that's what Tattle is. Like, people maybe feel lonely in their life and don't feel very good about themselves, so end up talking not very nicely about others. And a few of them, I think, have come over to Tittle and started joining in there. But yeah, it feels really nice to be part of that, because I just think putting your story out there on social media is kind of a big thing. And I've put a lot of personal information out there. And you know what? I have had a lot of not very nice comments, and you learn to deal with them. But I don't think we should normalise that. I don't think we should normalise trolling. I think we should normalise having spaces to talk about nice things and to talk about the good that we see in the world. Like, I think it just makes you feel much better about life.
I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you for being a part of Tittle, because I think it's changing the way and the direction that things should be done. And also,
thanks so much for having me. It's always nice to talk to you.
You too. Thank you so much. Hopefully we can do this again soon. Thank you for being here. Bye. Have you seen the new Ostique skins yet? Ostique Skins are revolutionary ostomy pouch covers that were created to make the wearer feel confident, sexy and powerful in all of life's moments. From moments of intimacy to lounging by the pool, conquering a workout or simply heading out to lunch, Skins have you covered. Even better, they're compatible with all major colostomy and ileostomy bags. Ostique Skins are available in a range of colours and skin tones, and they're made from a revolutionary material that's completely waterproof, high quality, soft and comfortable. Skins are easy to use, even with reduced dexterity, and they work with both closed and drainable bags. Plus, Skins are also environmentally friendly and vegan. There are 4 bundles available to buy now, and you can also purchase individual skins. Head to ostique.co.uk to find out more.